What is up, guys? EJ here, aka PuckBond007, and welcome to the Movie Reviewers 100, this great collaboration channel on YouTube that I am proud to be a part of. So this week is a really good week. It's Gary Oldman week. Gary Oldman, a great British actor, been in so many good films and so many sort of memorable characters and performances he's done over the years. The film I really did want to review, though, was The Professional, Leon, The Professional from 1994, because it's my favorite Gary Oldman film and probably my favorite performance by him. But Alan yesterday, Big Al 1982, already did a great review of that film, so make sure you check that out. So in lieu of that, I still wanted to do a film where Gary Oldman had a pretty significant role, and I thought about a film that I haven't actually sort of seen in forever, and I don't have it on DVD and Blu-ray. I'm kind of hoping one of the guys might find this movie and do it this week, and that's Romeo is Bleeding from 1993. I believe it's like a really sort of cool noir thriller that co-stars Lena Olin, I believe. Been ages since I've seen it, and it was never released on like DVD for the longest time, and I sort of gave up looking for it. But I've always wanted to like see that movie again, because I know he has a big role in that film. He basically is the starring character in that movie. So in lieu of that, I just said that again. I don't know why I said that twice. I decided to go with an oldie but a goodie, and that's Air Force One from 1997. Of course, the action thriller, Die Hard on the airplane, if you like. Of course, it's Die Hard on Air Force One, the President's plane. The film was directed by Wolfgang Petersen, a great German director. Of course, made a big splash in 1981 with Das Boot, one of my favorite World War II films. Love submarine movies, and that's a great movie. He followed that up in '84 with the '80s fantasy classic. I just burped a little bit, sorry about that. The Never-Ending Story. And then he went on to do other really good thrillers in the '90s. In the Line of Fire in 1993 with Clint Eastwood and John Malkovich, again sort of about the presidency and the president actually being in real danger. And then he did Outbreak in 1995. Outbreak's one of my favorite thrillers of any decade. Absolutely love that movie. Just really tense and exciting, really well made, with great performances by Dustin Hoffman, Rene Russo, and Morgan Freeman. Yeah, that's a brilliant film. Then he went on to do more big budget, sort of disaster type movies, with The Perfect Storm in 2000, Troy in 2004, one of my favorite films of the past decade, and Poseidon in 2006, the Poseidon Adventure remake. But of course, Air Force One actually starts out with a U.S. sort of military raid on a palace in Kazakhstan, former Soviet Republic. Yeah, I totally forgot watching this again last night that this film is centered about. I knew it was about a renegade general that the Americans captured, but I didn't realize it was Kazakhstan. This film sort of gives a bad reputation to people from Kazakhstan. And of course, Borat, the Sacha Baron Cohen comedy, sort of put Kazakhstan on the map, if you like, which is easily his best film. But anyway, so yeah, they captured this renegade general called Radek, and then the president, played by, of course, Harrison Ford, makes this big speech about war atrocities and doing the right thing. And America's not going to tolerate terrorism, and we're not going to negotiate with terrorists. That whole spiel. Sorry. And that's sort of the jumping off point for the movie. They're about to fly back on Air Force One, the president and his staff and his family, his wife and his daughter, and they're flying back from Russia because the Russians now hold this General Radek, this sort of militant radical leader general who's basically committed all these crimes in Kazakhstan, and they're holding him prisoner, and they've made a deal with the Americans. So the president's flying back, and of course Gary Oldman and his crew of bad guys managed to sneak onto the plane in the disguise of a television film crew, and of course they take over the plane, shoot a lot of people, and they have a guy on the inside. I will say, even though I think the film is kind of dated in parts, that opening sort of gun battle when they first initially take over the plane is really intense and really, really well done, actually. I was surprised rewatching it again last night how good that scene is. And those are always like the big scenes in these type of movies anyway, when the bad guys get the upper hand. First of all, I can think of films like Die Hard and Sudden Death. Sudden Death is probably my favorite when it comes to that, because the body count in Sudden Death is awesome when the terrorists take over the building, and Air Force One sort of similar type of movie. So obviously the bad guys led by Gary Oldman, who's a loyalist, nationalist, Kazakhstani, I don't know, terrorist, whatever. He's loyal to this renegade general, and it's his mission to get the president, to get the Russians to free this general, or he's going to start killing hostages, of course. Like I said, Gary Oldman's a great actor, but I will say his performance in this movie is a bit hammy. It's sort of an extreme between two different things. He's either yelling really loud, like, "Where is the president?" That was terrible. Or he's doing his like fake Russian accent. "We both kill. I use a gun, you make a telephone call." That type of Russian accent. That was terrible, I know, but that's basically what it is. Gary Oldman's performance in this movie. I kind of have a chuckle about it every time I watch it. Of course, the president doesn't escape on the escape pod. He stays on the plane, fights back, goes around under the plane, the undercarriage of the plane, in the baggage hold, in the avionics area, screwing everything up, killing bad guys, saving the day, and at the end, of course, he yells to Gary Oldman, "Get off my plane," and just like, I'm not really sure how Gary Oldman dies in this movie. I know he's like, he sort of gets his head caught in some strap as the parachute opens, and then later on you see him just sort of floating with his, I guess he broke his neck basically when that happened. But anyway, and of course, while all the stuff on the plane is going on, you have the war room back in Washington D.C. where Glenn Close is trying to negotiate with all her advisors, and of course the terrorists and Gary Oldman. One thing I've noticed a lot recently watching, especially movies from the 90s, early 2000s, is sort of noticing actors who were kind of small at the time. I mean, not small, but like not very well known, who are a lot better known these days, and they pop up in like every other movie I see, and pretty much every movie I see. William H. Macy is in this film. He has sort of a decent role, but he wasn't a very well-known film. This is, well, actually, now that I think about it, it was after Fargo, so, but even still, has a sort of a bit part. But the guy who was really sort of, who stood out, who I was glad to see in this film, was Paul Guilfoyle. And if you're a fan of CSI Las Vegas, the original, Paul Guilfoyle plays sort of the lead detective, not knowing the CSIs, but he's an actual cop detective. Really good actor, been in lots of great movies, and he's sort of the president's chief of staff in this movie. Our old friend Philip Baker Hall, who was in Midnight Run, which I reviewed a couple weeks ago, is in this as well. And I'm not sure who plays the president's wife. She's kind of forgettable. And so that sort of covers the main actors: Harrison Ford, Gary Oldman, Glenn Close, William H. Macy, and Paul Guilfoyle. Like I said, I do think the film is a bit dated in parts. There's a shot that I thought was really kind of funny and looked kind of silly. After the president sort of frees all the hostages, they all make their way down to the baggage area at the back of the plane, and they open up the thing, and they all start parachuting out the back of it. And there's a shot of one of the hostages, and she's just sort of floating in the air, and she's got this big stupid smile on her face, and she's actually one of the characters who helped out the president earlier with some fax machine thing, and it just doesn't look very convincing. I thought it looked funny. You can totally tell the CGI in that part, but there's some really tense moments. I mean, Gary Oldman actually dies or disappears like 3/4 of the way into the film. It's not like the big climax is really once the president and the sort of small band of secret service agents and staff members have taken back the plane, and all the terrorists are dead and gone. The plane is basically under attack by these 6 MiGs that have been released from MiG fighters that have been released from the General Renegades forces in Kazakhstan, and it's basically a fight to get off the plane before it crashes, and that's sort of the big end of the film. But Gary Oldman's long gone by the time we get to that point. So yeah, it's not a great film, and this review is way too long for this movie. I really didn't think I'd be talking about Air Force One for 15 minutes or so, but I have fun watching it. I always do. I'm a big fan of Harrison Ford, of course. He's great. He's got some good lines, of course, that famous line at the end. And Wolfgang Petersen's a good director. Some good special effects, a little dated in parts. Gary Oldman, great villain, even though I think his performance is pretty, well, it's not one-sided, it's two-sided. Yelling and a phony Russian accent. So that's my review for Gary Oldman week. Make sure you check out the other guys this week. Yeah, I'm really hoping somebody finds Romeo is Bleeding. I should have asked before I did this if anybody's planning to do it. But there you go. So thank you for watching as always, and until next time, I'll see ya.
Bond. James Bond.